Holach here. I want to show you how I made these Valentine's Day pants for my daughter's Valentine's Day outfit. So this year, my DIY project for Valentine's Day are these pants. I found on Pinterest and I wanted to do a version of them, and I thought, well, let me challenge myself and pick some knit fabric. You can use a 2- or 4-way stretch if you're gonna try to copy what I'm doing, but I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm gonna use existing leggings that currently fit my daughter and then make adjustments off of that pattern. The reason I'm gonna do this because one, if you see how to kind of copy the legging, you can make your own legging. And two, see how easily I adjusted the measurements and extended and cut off to make these pants that look completely different than a normal legging. If you are an experienced sewer and you have some tips and tricks, even if it goes against what I'm saying, please be nice and leave it in the comments below. If you are not nice, I have absolutely no problem deleting your comments. I don't want my page to be a platform for negativity. Let's just be nice, but be informative, and we can all learn from each other. If you haven't subscribed, I really appreciate if you do hit the subscribe, thumb it, sub it, speak it, and spread it. So I'm gonna have to make the pattern first, and I'm gonna try to explain as much as I can. My 3-year-old fits in a 5T. Go ahead and turn one leg wrong side out, and then you're going to want to stuff the other leg into that. Take your time and lay it flat. You will notice when you do this that the back is higher than the front, and the curve in the back is different from the curve in the front. They do this to make room for the butt or the back curve. I folded the legs so it cut off above the knees. I folded to the front side without it touching the top seam. I drew a line on the paper so that would be my center point for this pattern, and this is only for one leg, not both, just one. I will line the leggings up, but since I'm copying the front half of the leggings first, I will tuck or hide the back part of the leggings away, keeping the front part flat. Then I'm going to trace around, flip the leggings over, and then tuck the front part away so that I can copy the back part. I plan on extending the top 1.5 inches higher, and then I'm just going to connect the lines, and I'm going to clean up my lines. I go ahead and write down all the information I have for this pattern down because otherwise I'm going to forget about it. It is a 2-way stretch. You can also use a 4-way stretch, but if using a 2-way stretch, just be mindful of which way it's stretching because it has to stretch across their body and not lengthwise. You can choose to add the seam allowance to your pattern or when you cut out your fabric. Now that I have the pattern made, you can fold the fabric in half, right sides touching or wrong sides touching, and cut both out at the same time. I was a little nervous about this because the knit fabric kind of moves around a lot, so I decided to cut mine one at a time. If you do cut one at a time, please be sure that you cut a mirror image. You want a left and a right leg, not 2 right legs. So if you cut the first pattern with the pattern face up, you flip it over so the pattern's face down before you cut the second piece. That's a mirror image. What I did in the video was actually take the piece I already cut out and put it right sides touching each other, and then I cut out my second piece. Don't forget to mark your front and your back. So what I did was for my back, I marked 2 chalk mark lines, and then for the front, I did 1 chalk mark line to indicate the front. For the bottom half of the pants, which is like the bell part, I'm going to cut a rectangle that is 12 inches in height and 25 inches wide. Again, making sure it stretches across the body, not because you're going to actually need the stretch in this part. Cut 2 rectangles. So I'm going to put 2 basting stitches or 2 rows of basting stitches on the top so I can gather it. I usually end up popping one, or if I only put 1 row basting stitch, then I usually break it. So I suggest 2 rows. A basting stitch is the longest stitch that you have on your machine. Once you have those basting stitches in, I go ahead and tie all 4 threads. So that's 2 top threads and 2 bottom threads. I tie them all together on one side. On the opposite side, I grab the 2 top threads, and then I move the fabric down the thread to the side that's tied off. This is my waistline and this is my knee line. So now taking the rectangle that I gathered and taking the side that I tied all 4 threads off into a knot, I'm going to lay it right sides touching with the raw edge of the ruffles touching the raw edge of the knee line. And pin in the corner, and then going to the opposite end that's not tied off of the ruffle, I'm going to actually spread it out so that it reaches across the knee line, and then I'm going to pin in that corner. So now what I'm going to do is even this out, and then you can pin. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that the top of the ruffle line is matching up with the bottom of the knee line. When you pin, you're going to have some overlapping because you gathered it, and that's what it does. For sewing it together, I used a short zigzag stitch. And I just want to show you that even though I'm going to serge mine so to clean up the edges, using just a plain zigzag stitch on your machine looks beautiful. So I told you this fabric does move around a lot. I didn't go slow enough in this area, and I didn't pull it flat as it went through my sewing machine, so it did pucker in this spot. So I'm just going to go ahead and unstitch it and restitch it. But everything else looks beautiful. You didn't really have to top stitch this ruffle up, but I just decided to go ahead and do it. I used another short zigzag stitch, so I just wanted to show you that. So now we're finally going to sew one leg up. Yes, only one leg we're on. We have to do this again. Go ahead and pin your leg together. Make sure you match up that knee line and the crotch line pretty well. I'm going to start sewing from the crotch down to the hem. I figure that it's easier to correct any mistakes, or if the fabric shifts, I can correct it better in the hem than I can in the crotch area because that's cut more to size. And I'm again just using a short zigzag stitch, and it came out beautiful. Now that you have both legs sewn, we're going to go ahead and turn one right side out, and then I'm going to put my hand through the second one that is wrong side out and pull the one I turned right side out. So you want right sides touching. Also look at your notches. You have a front and a back notch. The front notches should be touching and the back notches should be touching. Make sure you line up where the waist is on both ends and where the crotch is. Moving on to the waistband. So for my design here, I wanted it to be a flat front waistband and then gather in the back so that it would have a better chance of staying up as she's playing in them. So for the flat piece, it was 9 inches to reach across from her one side to the other side of her body. And then for the back piece that's going to have the elastic in it, I went ahead and cut 13 inches. And both bands are 4 inches wide. So now working with the back piece, go ahead and fold them wrong sides touching. Do not make the mistake like I did and do right sides touching. We're going to sew it into a tube. Then go ahead and sew just the bottom, the longest part, using a small zigzag stitch to create the tube. I just used elastic that I had laying around. I believe it was like 3/4 of an inch or something like that. But it's a knit non-roll. I cut a 9-inch strip. And then what I did was go ahead and stuff it in this tube. And then I pushed the elastic up to the folded part of my tube, pin to keep it in place, just so that it's staying up into that fold. And you can see it better on the video than I can really describe it. So I'm putting the pin in just to keep it pushed up. Then what I'm going to do is take that 9-inch piece and I'm going to put it right sides together. This is going to seem kind of tricky, but it was the best way I can think about doing it. Do right sides together, matching up the ends, and then you're going to fold it over the tube so that the entire thing is right sides touching and raw edges should be on the same side. So you can pin this to hold this all 4 layers together, and then what you're going to do is you're going to sew the elastic on this side all together, all 4 layers plus the elastic. Now you're going to have to do the opposite end. So watching the video is really the best way you can see how I did it. You're going to pull the elastic all the way through to the other side, and you're going to start to gather that 13 inches. So you just want to move those gathers out of your way for the time being. Line up your elastic, pushing it all the way up into the fold, putting a pin in to keep it up there. And then you're going to take the opposite end of the 9-inch one and fold it over the 13-inch band. And you're sewing all 4 layers plus the elastic now on the opposite end. So this is going to create a circle. Now that you have this beautiful circle done, The flat part, I went ahead and just base stitched the bottom just to keep it together so it wouldn't move around. Now you're going to have to quarter your waistband and quarter your pants. Typically 2 seams are given to you, either side seams or in this case the crotch seam is going to give you 2 of them. But you want to make 4 marks on your fabric and they have to be equally distanced apart. So once you have them marked on both the pants and the waistband, you're going to turn your waistband so that right sides are touching, and basically you need to line up those raw edges on top of the raw edge of the pants. When you sew this, you're going to have to pull the elastic as you sew and line it up with the pants. So the elastic's really going to be gathering those pants together, so you have to make sure you pull them. So the last step is just hemming. So now you just have to try them on or know your length and hem. I did a 1/4 inch hem, which means that I folded it twice towards the inside of the garment, a 1/4 inch, and then again a 1/4 inch. That's it, you're done with the leggings. So to finish off my look, I just used some scrap fabric, sewed some rectangles, turned them right side out, gathered the center to make the bows, and then I hand tacked it to a pin so that I can put it on her top. So I put my daughter in a black long sleeve turtleneck bodysuit, tied it in with the bow. However, I understand some of you guys might think it's a lot of see-through. These are fashion leggings, so all you have to do to cover up that see-through is to line it. You want to make sure you're picking another knit fabric that has the same stretch and probably in the same color scheme. All you're going to do is cut 4 legs out, 2 right, 2 left, baste the left ones together, baste the right ones together, and then just sew them like I did in the tutorial. Make sure you are the reflection of love that God has for you. So God bless you. See you next time. Ciao.
Hallelujah. I got faith. Hallelujah. I got faith. Hallelujah. I got faith.